Libertarians are freaking out about Trump's pro-Israel cabinet choices. Now, libertarians are expressing concern about some of Trump's pro-Israel picks for his cabinet, some claiming that the uniparty has won, and other such nonsense. Uh, Talking about Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, Michael Waltz appointed as National Security Advisor, Elsie Stefanik for U.S. Ambassador to UN, John Ratcliffe, Director to the CIA, and Mike Huckabee, Ambassador to Israel. Now, for the record, most libertarians are kind of twitchy about Israel. Ukraine, taking us to the precipice of total global Armageddon, doesn't seem to raise as much ire as a blockade of Palestine. Chinese communists, the greatest mass murderers in history, who are currently giving a minority of 11 million Uyghurs the Adolf and his goose step boy treatment, including concentration camps and cultural eradication efforts. That doesn't get libertarians as worked up as Israelis' collateral damage during their heavy retaliation on Hamas and Hezbollah. Now, trust me, I do believe Israel to be a nation of buttholes. But it takes, uh, but it seems some take this action very personally, yet look at Ukraine and China with a certain amount of academic coolness, and never talk about places like Myanmar or Sudan or Ethiopia. But the US funding Israel, yeah, you take that personally. But you don't seem to mind funding China directly by making purchases of stuff that are made there. Point being, start from a more rational place, and these cabinet picks are less black pilled than you imagine. Okay, the wars about to result in the death of you and everybody you know should be equally upsetting to you as a multi-century ethnic conflict, which cost you personally $178.18 last year in taxes. So, first thing to take in mind is, in general, you don't want negotiators or the public face of their departments to be tie dye wearing, kumbaya singing, positive aura peaceniks. Negotiators and their bosses need to be scary. When they make threats, the people at either end of the negotiating table need to believe those threats might be carried out. There is no other route to peace. I've heard some libertarians kind of do the whole just stop funding it, it'll all end. Well, that's not true in either case. In Ukraine, if we stop funding it, um, although the Russians may not want to take all of Ukraine, they may reinterpret their position at that point. Right now, they have certain goals they want to meet in terms of land they want added to the Russian sphere, and some of that still exists in Ukrainian held areas. But if Ukraine suddenly loses the ability to defend itself, Russia will probably reassess. Israel, on the other hand, although it does get a lot of its money from us, um, it will find another benefactor. They are nationalists, they are survivors. They're not just going to roll up and die because the United States stops funding them. Somebody else will fund them. Maybe not quite to the same extent, but they'll get funding. So, talking about the six picks that are bothering people, first, Huckabee is probably the most egregious pick in terms of being pro Israel. He seems to have kind of a biblical take on it. But he's the ambassador to Israel. Ambassadors don't really change history. I mean, the only time they really matter is during a war in a client state. Israel is a beneficiary state, not a client state. They're going to kind of do their own thing regardless of who we put in as ambassador. Ask the Biden administration how well they've been doing getting Israel to back down on things. What about Ratcliffe as CIA? What's he going to do? Is he going to give more favorable view of intelligence assessments than Israel's already getting? Elise Stefanik. She's going to be the UN ambassador. Might as well be Liechtenstein for all that matters. How the UN votes on anything really doesn't matter. If she's busy blocking anti Israel proclamations and not pushing UN civilian arms treaties, she can have at it for all I care. While she was in Congress, she voted against the Ukraine portion of that big aid package that came through. She did want the Israeli part to go through. Now, put things in scope. Remember, one of those nations has brought us closer to nuclear annihilation than any time in history. The other is ethnic cleansing the area the size of Greater Portland Metro. Michael Waltz, as NSA, voted against Ukraine aid in that package. He did back Israeli aid, but with the stipulation that we reduce U.S. troops in the Middle East as a consequence of it. Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. I mean, Secretary of Defense has a lot less to do with foreign policy and a lot more to do with what U.S. forces look like in terms of how they're armed, how they train, uh, whether they get to wear falsies and a wig. It's not that big of an impact on how things are going to be in terms of how they work things out. And as we tend, or at least what people seem to believe, is that Trump tends to try to keep people in line to his ideas. And then Marco Rubio, which oddly caused the biggest problem, he voted against the entire $95 billion aid package to Ukraine, which included money for Israel, because he has been slowly changing his mind from his more neocon days to a more America First view. Now, some of that might just be because that's the prevailing winds, but who cares how you get there? Well, keep in mind that Trump, in his first term, recognized Jerusalem as the capital, also the annexation of the Golan Heights. And we were told that this would lead to a total breakdown of the peace process, that basically would just screw things up indefinitely. In fact, the Trump administration made better progress on peace than almost anyone in many, many decades in terms of the Middle East. So I'm going to end this here, but I'm actually going to follow up with two other videos that are kind of on the same subject. One's going to be is what you fail to grasp about the true nature of Israel. I suspect it'll be surprising to you. I come up with an interesting analogy. And also, what is Israel's place in the post-neoliberal order? I do believe Trump is trying to upend the neoliberal order to bring on a follow-on world order. Israel has a bigger place in that post neoliberal order than probably most libertarians would like. But if you understand what they're trying to do, it might soften the blow about what's going on there and what's going to happen there. All right. In the comment section below, what do you think of these picks? Do you think state or the Uniparty has won? Is having too many pro-Israel people in the cabinet a big problem? Do you think Trump can keep these people reined in? Where do you think, just for assumption's sake, if all these people got in, where does that take us vis-a-vis in Israel? Also, do you think all these guys will make it? Are some of them doomed to failure? Or you're going to get basically shot down in the Senate? What's your thoughts? All right. Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithm's brought you here and you're not one of my subscribers, look at my other titles. You'll find stuff you like. Subscribe. If you know someone who might find this interesting, share it with them. All right, thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.